So today I'm going to be explaining how I ripped out my edges last year, like literally had a bald spot right here, and how I've been able to grow it back over these past 10 months. I'm also going to be explaining why I think the hair growth oil industry is a little bit dishonest, slightly scamish. And this video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be taking out my twists. I'm getting ready for church, so we're going to be doing a chat get ready with me story informative video all in one. So let's see how this goes. How did this happen? So last year I had of course been doing protective styling, and the hairstyle that I had in before I took this picture was braids, which is not abnormal for me. I always do braids and I typically don't have a problem. But the reason why I typically don't have a problem is because I am usually following my own advice of making sure that my entire edge area, or at least like 75% of my entire edge area, is put into one braid. I am not usually dividing that area into small little braids. Now, when you do that, you do sacrifice a bit of the style because it can look a little bit wonky to have this huge braid, but all these other braids that are smaller in size. It just, aesthetically, it's not quite as appealing. When I'm wearing my hair in middle parts, that's not a big deal because you don't even see the edge. However, I was going through a period of time where I didn't just want to wear my hair in middle parts, I also wanted to wear my hair in side parts. Problem with that is it's going to show that edge area that I was just putting into one big braid. Here is mistake number one that led me to this bald patch. I stupidly thought to myself, you know what? I take such good care of my hair and I always put my edges into one braid, and I've probably built up, some equity of that good hair practice. So if I were to not follow that rule for the next, 4 to 6 months, what's the worst that's gonna happen? I'm probably gonna be fine. And so I did that. I put my hair into the standard type of small little braids in that section. And I did it with hair that was synthetic, which is a lot heavier than, say human hair, for example. And I then, on top of that, chose to wear that hairstyle a lot in side parts where it was flipped over. So now you have a few different things working against me. I'm putting my edges in small little sections. I'm making those sections or those individual braids heavy with synthetic hair so that it looks nicer to me. And now I'm putting even more like tension on that area because I'm flipping it over. And I can't quite explain this part, but I really do think that when you do side parts with braids, at least on me, I've noticed that it causes more tension in that edge area than if I just put my hair in a middle part, just because of the way that the braids are now laying. So those were the initial mistakes that I made. But of course, when you're gonna go down the rabbit hole of disaster, you might as well just go fully out. So that wasn't enough for me. After doing that, I then decided that instead of following my other rule of making sure to always redo my edges at least once a month when in a braided hairstyle, and then redo the entire braids at least every 3 months, I left those braided edges in for like 3 months at a time. And then when I would redo them at 3 months, I also didn't do what I always do, which is assess how my hair is looking and feeling. Usually when I have my edges and braids and I take them out, I look at them, I see how they're feeling, I see if there are any areas at all that feel like, are they a little bit sore? Is there any breakage that I'm noticing in any of these areas? So I know to lay off of that area for a while so that I can give it some time to recuperate. Oh, no, I didn't do that. I decided, whatever, living my life, not paying attention. I'm just going to put the braid right back in, not take an assessment of how my edges are doing. So because I ignored that step, I didn't notice how the balding and the ripping of my hair was slowly happening. Another dumb thing that I did, and I can't believe, like, when I think about all the dumb mistakes I made, I don't know what was wrong with me. Another dumb thing that I did is I could feel like throughout the day, throughout the weeks, that my edges were feeling a lot of tension in that particular area. If any of you guys have ever given yourself temporary traction alopecia from, improper hairstyling, then you know that you can oftentimes feel the tension in your hair follicles slowly being ripped out of your scalp. And for some dumb reason, which I attribute to just my own laziness and cockiness of not feeling like it was a big deal, I just ignored that feeling and was like, meh, it's no big deal. This is just, regular tension that you feel from braids. You shouldn't be feeling tension from braids, precious. You know this. This is what you say on your YouTube channel, but nope, didn't pay attention. So before I knew it, it was time to, take out my hair and wash it, and I blow dried it, and I did my little side part, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, what is this? Where did this bald patch come from? It was right in this area. It was right here. It's like, where did this bald patch come from? I thought I was crazy. I was like, it's not. It's not a bald patch. It must be like the way that I'm styling the hair, or let me go and take a look at it. It can't be that bad. Maybe I'm just zoomed in too much, or I just blow dry. No, not me, never. I would never do anything that could hurt my edges. When I tell you I was so sad and so depressed because I pride myself on how I take care of my hair, and I knew this wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm having some type of genetic or medical issue that could be causing hair loss. That would be, I think, a bit easier for me to handle because it's out of my control. This is something that I did to myself that didn't need to be that way, that I knew better, and I still did it to myself. Like, I was ashamed of myself. So I moped around for a few days, just not knowing what to do with my life. But then I realized, no, this, my friend, is an opportunity. This is an opportunity, one, for you to be humbled by yourself. Thank you, God. Sometimes I need to be humbled. But also, it's an opportunity for you to now go down a journey of figuring out how and can I grow back my edges after I damage it from protective styling, because I know that I am not the only one that has experienced something like this before. I think this is a common thing that can happen, unfortunately, in the natural hair, not just natural hair, just the black hair community in general. Our hair is very fragile, number one, and we tend to do a lot of hairstyling that can be tight and add a lot of tension to our edges. And there can be a lot of pressure to make our edges look neat and crisp. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to add. I was also at that time when I had my hair in that hairstyle and I was flipping it over, I would also be brushing my edges with some type of gel, some type of alleged natural hair gel. I don't even remember the exact name of it. So I was like, it's probably not that bad. And I'm using a soft brush, and I don't do this every day. I do this like once a week. And I thought that that wouldn't be bad. I absolutely think that that contributed to the hair loss in that area. So dumb. You brush your edges just for them to shrivel up in a few hours from the humidity anyways, just so that you can have a bald patch in a few months. Make it make sense. Once I stopped being depressed and I decided we're gonna take advantage of this opportunity, we're gonna figure out how to grow our hair back if we can. I'm gonna come on YouTube, I'm gonna share the shameful pictures of how I have disobeyed my own natural hair rules like an idiot. And I'm going to either be able to share with them how I've been able to grow that bald patch back, and here's what I did for anyone who could also be in a similar situation, that they may be able to benefit from it, or I'm gonna use myself as a sacrifice of, this is how I got a bald patch, it's not growing back, don't be like me. Either way, I figured it would be helpful to somebody. As you can see here, this is where the bald patch was. Let me actually take this out. And I'm very happy to see and to say that it has grown in quite a bit. This area here, where it was, is still, I'm trying to show a comparison. is still obviously very short in comparison to the rest of the hair around it. As you can see, I think that's pretty obvious, but it has grown in. It is not a wide, gaping bald patch like it was before, which I'm very, 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 very grateful for. So let's talk about what I actually did to grow it back. Hey guys, so I am interrupting the video because I have two major announcements that I want to make. The first is that I am pregnant. I am almost 38 weeks to be exact, so I will be welcoming my baby in just a couple of weeks. I don't know if you remember, in a past video, I mentioned that I had to take some time away and that I would explain what was going on in due time. At that time, I just was not feeling very good in my pregnancy, very nauseous, very sick, very headachy, but I'm feeling much better now in my third trimester, thank God, and have been enjoying making weekly content for you guys. This is going to be me and my husband's first child, so as soon to be first-time parents, we are both equally excited and terrified because they don't send you home with a manual with that thing, so we're going to figure it out as we go. The second announcement is that I'm obviously going to be taking some time away from my 9-to-5 job for paternity leave, and I figured this would be the perfect time to launch my first official membership on this channel. So I'm gonna have two tiers. The first one is gonna be called Fro Fam for individuals who want to support the channel. And the second tier is gonna be called Crown Keepers. And this is for individuals who want a bit more connectivity with me, want some more status and photo updates, want some exclusive membership only videos where you'll get at least one video extra per month. All of these changes that are gonna be happening in my life this year, I will likely be adding some additional content to that membership channel, as well as even things that are not just, you know, about hair, whether that is current events, whether that is baby content, whether that's just what's going on. It's going to be a plethora of a bunch of stuff in addition to hair content. So if you are interested in any of those, then feel free to join the family. The link will be listed in my description box below. If it's not something that you can do at this time, please, no worries. Just you watching my videos is support enough. Lots of changes will be happening this year. I look forward to sharing, you know, my delivery story, my pregnancy story, because I know I've been watching a ton of those videos this past year and they've really helped me. So whenever I watch content on YouTube that is helpful, I try to make that myself when it's my turn. So looking forward to adding in that type of content on this channel and diversifying things a bit. I hope you guys decide to continue to stay on this journey with me. So that is it. Thank you for tuning in, and back to the video. Here's what my original plan was going to be. You are making all these different hair products, these different concoctions, wonderful. You're gonna make a super intense hair growth oil with peppermint oil, with rosemary oil, with all the oils that we actually have scientific studies alleging, you know, will help hair follicles to be stimulated and grow back. You're gonna do that, and you are going to massage that into your scalp every day using the inversion method. The inversion method, for anyone who's not familiar, is basically when you flip your head upside down and massage your head like that for a period of time. The theory behind that is that you are helping the blood flow go to those areas, which in theory, again, should help to promote more hair growth. So I was gonna do that in terms of products stimulation. And then the other part that I was gonna do is I was gonna go back to basics of what I knew in terms of taking care of my edges. Number one, even though I was doing a number of different hairstyles, whether it was crochet, whether it was braids again, not only was I twisting up or braiding that whole section, I oftentimes wouldn't even add hair to that section in those very first few months when I was growing it back. I didn't want any added tension on that area. So I would just literally take this whole section here and put it into a twist, and then just have my hair in the middle part, and you wouldn't even know that this didn't have added hair to it. My thinking was, I need to baby my hair. I need to do literally no manipulation, negative amounts of manipulation, to try to get back on track because I have been abusing my hair. So again, let me reiterate that. It was hair growth oil plus daily massages plus no manipulation. Be kind to your hair Try not to expose that bald spot. Always cover it up with other pieces of hair so that you're not promoting extra friction. If you are, for example, going to sleep and that bald spot is exposed, that's going to be promoting extra friction in that area. So I would cover the bald spot. So for example, if this was the bald spot right here, I would take this piece down and try to cover it so that I wasn't having any extra friction on that area that was already damaged with outside stuff. And I cannot take credit for that particular method or process. I give 100% credit of that to Craven Curly Kinks, who recently just came back from YouTube. Woohoo! The best piece of hair advice that I have ever received for my edges came from Craven Curly Kinks. This whole philosophy of don't divide your edges into little mini sections. If you are dealing with some breakage, cover it up with the hair around it. Try to avoid friction, try to massage it, try to not manipulate that area. That all came from her. She had experienced some edge damage in the past and did a whole video on it, and I had never seen or heard about that before, and that is what has really given me the foundation of how I do my braids, how I typically protective style with just doing those one big sections. And I really attribute being able to go as long as I have until this recent issue. So shout out to Craven Curly Kinks. I highly recommend that you check out her channel if you want some really good informative information about 4C hair care. So that is what I did. Now, when I was doing that process though, the area that I put most of my focus on was not the no manipulation. It was not the massages. It was the products. I believed that the product and the hair growth oil that I use is really the thing that is going to make or break this. I fell into that trap that I think we Black women sometimes fall into, which is thinking that we are going to have our hair problems solved by some type of magical product. And what I already knew at that time, but has been even more reinforced now. All right. I'm not trying to offend anyone who sells hair growth oils, and I make a lot of my own oils, so I get it. And I do believe that they can cause some benefits, okay? However, I 100% believe that if you were to rank hair massages, hair growth oil, or reduce manipulation in that edge area, what is most important? Reduce manipulation in that area, to me, is most important as number one. I think the hair growth oil and the hair massage are probably tied for number two to me. But more importantly, I believe, based off of my own experience, I'm not saying this can apply to everybody, but based off of my own experience, reducing the hair manipulation is enough to be able to grow back your hair edges. It may take a while, but it is enough to do most of the heavy lifting. Why do I say that? Because my initial plan was to implement that 3-stage process of massaging, oil, and reduce manipulation. However, me being me and being a lazy natural and sometimes not being the most consistent at some things, I didn't keep up with the daily massages and I didn't keep up with the daily hair stimulating oil. I probably did it for maybe a couple of months and then I just kind of did it sporadically. I wasn't paying attention to it. But the part that I did keep up, that I was very careful about, was making sure that I was not doing any small sections in that area. Oftentimes when I had braided hairstyles in, I would put the smallest amount of hair, or I would put no hair there at all. That way the weight and the tension was very minimal. I was making sure to do that method of covering up the bald spot with the hair around it so that when I was going to sleep, because I don't wear bonnets, when I was going to sleep, I didn't have to worry about additional friction that could potentially accelerate that hair loss. I really, really did the reducing manipulation to the extreme. I was very, very, very careful with that. And I think that manipulation and reducing manipulation, how you physically handle your hair, has always to me been the most important part of how you can grow and retain hair length. That's why I still to this day don't believe in using combs on my hair personally, because when I stopped using combs was when I really started to see such a dramatic difference in my hair. When I started to implement protective styling that cut out manipulation altogether, again, I started to see dramatic changes in my hair. So based off of my own experience, it's why I have that philosophy. But when you're on YouTube or when you're on Google or ChatGPT, whatever, you hear a lot of people say, if you want to grow your hair 6 inches in 1 month, use this hair growth oil in my bio. If you want to see how I was able to fill in this bald spot, and you have this image that looks like it's been photoshopped, but you're like, whatever, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, you should buy this special hair growth oil with all these ingredients in it. And I'm like, okay, interesting. But when you take a look at the ingredients of a lot of these products, what doesn't quite make sense to me is a lot of them have the same ingredient. Most of people's natural hair growth oils that they make have similar ingredients. They have the peppermint oil, the rosemary oil, your nettle oil, some hibiscus, different types of Ayurvedic herbs, you know, your fenugreek, all that jazz. And again, I'm not saying those don't help. I do believe that they do help. However, I think that the amount that they help is overemphasized, and the amount and the role that reducing manipulation and physical damage to those edges, how you actually handle your edges, is not talked about enough. That part is downplayed. That part is really minimized when I watch those videos. When I watch those videos and people say, this is how I grew back my bald spot, they'll say things like, so I was wearing braids, or I was doing this, or I was doing that to my edges. I stopped doing that, and I was applying my hair growth oil for 6 months, and the hair growth oil is what grew back my hair. But the problem is, when you do an experiment like that, you are introducing a number of different variables at the exact same time, right? You're reducing your manipulation, you're adding in a hair growth oil, and you may even be doing hair growth massages. In theory, that's good because you're covering all your bases as to what could potentially help your hair grow. But the problem is for you to then say, the reason that my hair grew is because I just used this hair growth oil. Buy this hair growth oil, it'll help your hair grow as well. And you don't really mention or emphasize that you are doing 2 other things as well. The reason for your results may not be as accurate as you're making it out to be. So for me, after a while, when I realized, Precious, you have not been keeping up with applying your hair growth oil, you have not been keeping up with doing this whole upside down hair massaging, I thought, you know what? I haven't been, and I'm not going to. I've only been doing it for a couple of months, and even in those couple of months, it's been sporadic, to be honest with you. I don't think I ever had a full month where I did any of those things every day, except for no manipulation. But I realized, you know what? If I do all of these 3 things, sure, I do believe that it could help, and maybe it could help speed up the process, but I'm curious, is reducing the actual physical manipulation and getting away from the practice that actually caused most of the damage in my edge area, would that be enough to grow back my edges? And how important of a role do these hair growth oils really play? Because I mean, our scalps produce sebum, right? It's not like we necessarily always need to apply an oil to our scalp. I mean, some people argue that that may not always be good because it could be clogging your follicles, and maybe everything that you need is already being produced in your scalp. I don't know, it's an interesting theory. But I wanted to see what could happen if I just cut out the manipulation part. So that's what I've been doing. I've not kept up with the hair growth oil or the hair massages, and my edges have grown back. So for me, that says, okay, in some cases, and I think it's very important to emphasize in some cases, because that's another issue that I have with some of these hair growth oil sellers, is they make it seem like regardless of what your situation is in terms of why you're experiencing hair loss, if you buy this oil, it's going to help you. You don't know that. People experience hair loss for a number of different reasons. Some could be due to some type of vitamin deficiency or other medical reason. Some could be due to temporary traction alopecia that you give yourself because you're ripping your hair out from your braids like I did. Some could be due to different types of alopecia that may have to do with stress or other things going on. Some people could have a scalp condition that they actually need to see a dermatologist for. Like, there are a number of different reasons that you can be experiencing hair loss. So to just promote this hair loss oil is going to be the reason to solve everyone's problems when you have not actually diagnosed their specific cause of hair loss is not really being honest. You know what I mean? Now I get it. We're all trying to be entrepreneurs out here, and I'm all for Black female entrepreneurship, but I think that sometimes we do it to the expense of our own community, because we understand that so many of us deal with hair loss and want to grow our hair. And so when we see or hear a product is going to take us from, you know, a tiny little afro to waist length in just 6 months, we're like, oh my gosh, let's do it. But realistically speaking, that's probably not true. So do I think that hair growth oils are scams? I think that the marketing around them, if I'm being honest, is slightly scamish. I do believe that hair growth oils, in essence, work in terms of adding some benefits and helping to stimulate your hair growth. I do believe that they work. And I do wonder if I had been religiously consistent with the hair growth oil while cutting out the manipulation and all that stuff, I am willing to bet that maybe my hair would have grown faster. Maybe. I don't know by what percentage. I'm just guessing. However, I don't believe that everybody needs a hair growth oil to bring back your edges when it's situations like traction alopecia. I also think that, from what I've learned from other dermatologists, that depending on how bad the case of alopecia was, how long those follicles have been dormant, how bad the hair loss was, can dictate whether or not the hair will ever grow back or not. Like, is it completely dead, or is it just slightly injured where it can come back in time? So I think sometimes, at least in my case, I think that my follicles were injured, the hair had been pulled out, they needed some time and tender love and care to come back, but I don't believe that they needed a hair growth oil. They just needed me to stop being dumb and stop brushing them and stop putting them into small sections, into braids, and putting them into side parts, and see what will happen. I think that time is honestly one of the most underrated aspects when it comes to hair growth and hair growth recovery in general, because I remember at the time when this was happening, it felt like even a month in, I barely saw any progress. And it was like, it's never gonna happen. My follicles are dead forever. This bald patch is gonna be here for life, right? Because to us, or to me at least, a month of waiting for my hair to grow back is like an eternity. But in the large scheme of things, girl, it took you a few months to get the bald patch. It's gonna take you a little bit more than a few months to grow it back. You need to be patient. And now, even though the hair patch has come back in, like I showed you guys before, it's still, you know, much shorter than the hair around it. And I'm understanding of that. It's gonna take a long time for it to ever catch up, if it ever does, if it ever even does catch up with the rest of my hair. That will take a long time, and I'm fine with that. I'm just appreciative of our body's abilities to heal and to grow back, that I didn't need to do anything too crazy, that I didn't completely kill those follicles is a blessing, and I learned my lesson. And now, just to show you guys my edges a bit closer, this side, this edge area here, I didn't have as dramatic of a balding patch as I did on this side, but both of these edges, to me, to my standard, were jacked up because I was doing the same poor habits on both of them. And I just can't believe how both of them have really grown in. Like, I got full edges now. For me. Maybe to some of you guys, you're like, no, your edges look like trash. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. But for me, we've come a long way.